Module 1 Lecture 1 The Boats. This group has been named the boat letters simply because they all share the same general shape that resembles a boat, differing only in the number of dots that they have. The first letter that we have is called ba. As you can see, its shape is that of an elongated semicircle with a dot placed beneath it. It's important that we pay close attention to this line in the Arabic language, since many letters have dots or curves that fall beneath it, and so being accurate is important to avoid letters becoming confused. The sound that the ba makes is much like the letter B in English in words such as ball, balloon, or break. A good way to remember its sound is to think of a boat, which represents its shape. The dot below could represent a buoy floating around the boat. We know that the word buoy begins with the letter B, which is the same sound as the ba. Begin practicing the letter ba. Repeat after me. First, repeat the letter, followed by its phonetic sound. Ba, b, ba, b, ba, b. The next letter that we have is called ta. Here we have exactly the same shape as the ba, except that the ta has two dots above the semicircle that sits on the line. The sound that it produces doesn't really have an English equivalent, though its closest approximation is the letter T. However, unlike the T, which is quite thick and heavy, in words such as train and Timothy, the Arabic ta is light and soft, produced by placing the tongue beneath the upper front teeth. The T in the Italian tutti from the phrase tutti frutti is an exact equivalent, as are the Spanish tranquilo and the French travailleur. For ba, it was the boy that reminded us of its B sound. For ta, a good way to remember it is if we can imagine two men on board the boat. The word two, beginning with the T sound, should be enough to remind you that ta holds this T sound, but is lighter and softer. Now let's practice saying the ta. Repeat after me. Ta, t, ta, t, ta, t. The next letter that we have is called tha. Once again, that same semicircle exists for the letter tha, except that it has three dots above it. The sound that it produces is in fact the same as the th sound in the word three. When trying to remember the sound of the letter, imagine the three dots representing three men this time aboard that same boat. Now that should remind you of the th sound that this letter represents. Let's now practice pronouncing that letter. First, the name of the letter, followed by its sound. Tha, th, tha, th, tha. The next letter that we have is called noon. The previous three letters have shared exactly the same base shape, differing only in the number and location of their dots. This letter, the noon, has a shape that is slightly different but is still placed under this group of boat letters because of the similar way in which it behaves to them in other areas. You'll discover this later on. As you can see, its curved line drops below the writing line and returns back up to finish slightly above it. It also has a single dot sitting almost within the semicircle that is produced. The noon is equivalent to the English N in words such as nice or no. This letter looks like an egg, with the dot representing the yolk. From here, I associate the egg with the nog from the American eggnog. The N in nog reminds me of the N sound for noon. Now, as usual, let's practice the noon sound. Noon. N. Noon. N. Noon. N. The final letter that we have in this group is called ya. The ya begins with what looks identical to the letter S, and then extends below the line, and then comes back up again, much like the noon. It also has two dots below the letter. Now, just like the noon, it's placed under boat letters because it behaves like the previous four letters in other areas. The sound that it produces is equivalent to the Y sound in English in words such as yawn and yes. When trying to recall this letter, what stands out to me is the S shape at the beginning. When I see the S, I immediately think of it as the final letter in the word yes. The Y of yes reminds me of the Y sound of the ya. Now let's practice pronouncing the letter ya. As usual, first the name of the letter, followed by its phonetic sound. Ya. Y. Yeah. Y. Yeah. Y. Well done. You've now completed the first group of letters, the boat letters. We now have a summary of the 5 letters we have covered up to this point. At this early stage, it would be a good idea for you to become familiar with the transliterations until you are more confident of their true sounds. Remember the 4 principles: listen, repeat, practice, and perfect. Once you feel confident and have perfected these letters, move on to the next section.